Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Alleyne. I am your host, and today we talk fashion, vintage fashion, with Theresa Redd, who is the owner of Reimagined BK in Brooklyn, New York. Welcome, Theresa. How are you?
I'm great, Sonia. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Are you a Brooklynite? How long have you lived in Brooklyn? Is it new for you, or have you been here for a minute?
I have been in Brooklyn 55 years of my life. I was actually born in Jamaica, West Indies, and I came to this country April 15th, 1970. I'm going to be 57 this year. So that's how long I've been in Brooklyn.
Okay, so you are a true Brooklynite.
Yes.
Brooklynite. Yeah, so you remember, I'm guessing you might remember when we used to have a lot of Black fashion brands in Brooklyn, particularly on Franklin Avenue, around Fulton Street. And now it seems as if, I'm imagining, I didn't ask you this, but when I heard the name of your company called Reimagined BK, that's what I thought about. Was that part of the reason that you named your company this?
So thank you for asking that. Reimagined BK actually came, here's a little story about it. Yes, it's all of that. My husband and I created this store together. It's something that was actually in the works for about 4 years. We had been talking about creating a store, and just, it was always about waiting for the right place. Where would it be? Do we want it to be in Manhattan? Do we want it to be in Brooklyn? And so it just so happened I was driving home. We're in the Crown Heights area. I was driving home, and I noticed that this store that used to be an African textile store was vacant. And I happened to have met the woman who owns the space, actually the landlady of the space. And so I pulled over. I was with another girlfriend because she was in on the project, and we jumped out and ran in. And then the store became a whole thing, And so we started to talk about the word reimagined because we were throwing around like, what is this? The vintage means, something that may be reimagined for you. Right. That hat's reimagined for you. Those jeans are reimagined for you. And it's also play on the life I have with my husband at this point. We were both married before. We've been married for 3 years now, and we're reimagining this whole life together. So that word is pretty loaded for us.
It really is loaded. And for the audience, your husband is the singer and music executive, Jeff Redd.
Yes, Grammy Award-winning Jeff Redd.
Grammy Award-winning. That's right. And so was this an interest? Was the fashion part an interest of his as well, or was it the excitement of creating a new business?
Jeff has always been known for his great taste, his great style of dress, and after being in the music industry for almost 35 years or more, he's always had that as his thing. But I love to say we're not in the fashion business. We're in the customer service business because our store is not just about clothing. It's about new and vintage. It's about alterations. And now we also have visual art. So we are selling paintings and portraits and the space. We love to say the space is about visual art and wearable art.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's actually really an eclectic space, but it seems to be right on time for the neighborhood. And we're so grateful to be on Franklin Avenue. It is like the corridor, as you had started off by saying, the corridor has changed quite a lot. Right. And it's a bustling space to be. So, it's, as I said, the first question was whether or not we were looking at it from a fashion perspective. It's too difficult in this market to jump in and really, deliver this fashion. It's more about style. And it's more about, taste and style and giving people what they want. So we hunt for those items. We bring those items back to the store. We help people with their personal style, whether they're coming in for alterations. We have an amazing seamstress, and we're expanding to add other seamstresses and tailors. And yes, home is a big thing about that as well. So we are adding the beautiful portraits we have an artist by the name of Tulu Ayarinde, who is our third artist, who is being showcased as an exhibition in our space. And so it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. When you talked about you providing the taste and things that people are looking for, I just wanted to read a few statistics because your timing in opening the store is perfect. The resale stores, they're roughly 25,000 in the U.S. currently. But in 2023, sales increased roughly 11%. Which made it at that point a $197 billion business. The resale industry is projected to be, by 2028, a $350 billion industry. Did you know any of those numbers when you got started?
I started to research the numbers and I'm going to back up a little bit more. This was purely a selfish endeavor. Like at one point, Jeff and I were like, oh, we have too much stuff. We got to get rid of all this stuff. There's just so much stuff in the house. And he had his place and I had my place and we had inherited some, items and we were like, we got to get rid of this stuff. And so it was to declutter and to kind of, become a little bit more nimble and limber. And so that was the first reason we got into it. The second reason is Jeff loves the vintage world. He was the one who got me into it because my first experiences, what vintage used to be sometimes in shopping was not necessarily a pleasurable experience. It was, sometimes going into places that didn't smell so good and didn't look so good. And now, the whole scene has changed. It's become a thing. And we feel really, really fortunate that we jumped on it. We are, we're finding some amazing pieces. He had some amazing pieces. I sure did. And we brought them together and people are bringing us things like we end up with some things that are, I have a Valentino that I don't want to see it go to Goodwill. I prefer it to be in your store. Some high-end brands as well as some charming pieces. So yeah, we knew we were onto something when we saw the reaction from the community.
And even though they say that of course people love their finds and they love fashion shopping online, the vintage experience, people really do like that in person. Again, for all the reasons that you were saying, to go in and identify these unique pieces, to see how these unique pieces really resonate with them, their spirit and their soul. It's a very different type of shopping experience.
It really is. And I try to make it less intimidating as well. We try to curate it in a more of an attractive manner. When you come in, the store smells nice. We've got music playing, and we have just an ambiance, especially with the art, to make people feel like they're getting that high-end boutique experience. We literally have people who pause. They come to the door and they're like, oh, can I come in? Is this, they think it's really expensive. I'm like, no, come on in. And then, we treat them like they are, they've just entered into our lounge and, we give them that experience and curating those items. And our things we have things as low as $10 all the way up to, depending on the piece. You may find something for $300 or $400, but for the most part, everything is like very affordable, $20, $30, because people want to be able to buy more than one item. They don't want to feel like they've had to make a choice between their rent and and just a new item. And a lot of folks just want to feel like they're having a responsible shopping experience or not feel bad. Oh my gosh, I just, as I said, spent all my money for the week or the month on something. So we get a lot of repeat customers and we make it that kind of experience. So, they may find something on the rack that needs some alterations. So our seamstress is there 5 days a week. She's in the store with me and she'll pin it right up and make it even more so, personalize it. And also people are, able to bring their items in from wherever they bought it and have that experience as well, have their things altered in the store.
Great. Well, you talked about it being more of a customer service experience than even a vintage experience. Is that does that come naturally from your background of being a marketer and a branding expert as well?
Yes. Yes. I spent many years doing PR, marketing, branding, development. I always say that I started off in customer service and customer relations. I came from television and music and television and entertainment. I was back in the day when it was called Viacom. I was at Viacom on the Nickelodeon side for about 10 years. And when I left, I was the person who was responsible for the customer experience and the viewer experience at Nickelodeon and Nickelodeon Networks at the time. And it was on the job training. You never knew who was on the phone. You never knew what was going to be in a letter, and you never knew what problem you were going to have to solve. So I've been through what I call baptism by fire, and it's always been a part of who I am. I think and I had some of the best teachers who taught me that whole world of customer service and customer satisfaction. So we problem solve. People come in, they're looking for that thing. There's always the desire to go more trendy in the store, but I want to be that store. And I'm sure you might remember this, Sonia. You remember when you were growing up and you might have gone shopping with your mother, and she always had that favorite store she went into where she knew the shopkeeper, she knew the owner, and she could say, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that dress to go to this wedding, or I'm looking for, a black pair of loafers to go to work in. I could have the high heels and those girls aren't wearing that anymore.
Right.
So part of the customer service experience is to give them what they're looking for. And that's what I'm trying to do at a reasonable price.
Yeah, I had actually forgotten that, but I do remember that, where you had that person who would say, I know exactly or I've been holding this for you, or I had you in mind, right? Because it was somebody who was familiar, and it was the type of experience that you would never get online, right? We've lost that even in some of the bigger department stores. For people who are listening, talk to us a little bit about why this customer experience, or understanding why it's important to create this special feeling for your customers beyond what you actually sell, why that's so much more important.
I'm so glad you asked that too. One of the things that I'm noticing, and I think it's because I'm a mom. I have, a 28-year-old son, a 31-year-old son, and now being married to Jeff, he has 4 sons. So we have all these boys, they're coming up at this time, and each one of them has their own individual personality. They're like our little, test tube lab of really looking at how young people are coping and coming together or not during this period of time. Watching and just listening to the people that come into the store. Average customer is mostly in our store, even though we sell men and women's clothing and items, the 25-year-old to 35-year-old young woman, so we spend a lot of time talking with her and having or those who identify as women 25 to 35, but we have customers of all ages. We don't even call them customers. We call them clients, when they come into the store. And talking with them. Sometimes they just come in just to check in with us. We have young people who come in and they just want to be there in the store. They want to see a smiling face. They want to know that this is a safe space where they can come in and I ask them what they're working on, what they're trying to do. And to make it that place, I always think about my sons. I think about them out in the world, and is there a place like that where they can go and stop in and have that friendly conversation and have someone who checks in on them? And so, and there's been lots of tears shed in the store. We've had, I'm the notorious hugger. My husband worries about me, but I'm always the one hugging everybody. But, lots of hugs, lots of encouragement. And it's, for me, it feels like this is where I should be. This is what I always have done, and it just, now I have a place to show up to, throughout the week to do it.
So this has been a natural transition for you.
Yeah, it actually has been. I mean, I have social anxiety just like the next person, but there are those you gauge it. Someone comes in, you can see if they look like they want to have a conversation. Do they not? We've we've connected people in this space, and that makes me feel happy. I've seen those who have come in just looking really sad when they've come in, something has happened, or they just want to feel like they're being seen, and it's difficult because this is a big city. It's a big city. Brooklyn, that part of Brooklyn, which is Crown Heights, which is very social. We've got a whole social scene happening there, but sometimes it can still feel a little lonely. There are a lot of people who have just moved into the area from other places, and they don't know where they can go. And we tell them where to eat and what to do, and go to First Saturdays on in the museum down at the Brooklyn Museum, and we try to make them feel like it's more than just a transaction, it's more than them making sure that they buy something as soon as they come in, So we are supposed to close it at some certain time, and sometimes it's much later than that, because you never know who might have just walked in.
Who might have come in. So it's obvious, and it's beautiful that you are creating a sense of community in that space. You've added music, you have art. What will expansion look like, or what do you expect it, or will it be organic for you?
Yes. So we've actually, we've done book signings. We actually did Angelo's book signing, Angelo Ellaby's book signing, at our store. And he was our first book signing. We did Ralph McDaniel's book signing at the store. So we opened up the space for that. Everything in the store is movable. So we just pushed the racks out of the way. We've got chairs fold out chairs. We recently had a dinner for a group of women, hosted by this wonderful, wonderful sister by the name of Charlotte Krabby. She has an organization called Black Women Resting, and it was so beautiful. So we have tables, which was so lovely. A beautiful candlelit experience in the store. And so we make things like that happen. And one of the biggest things that we did most recently was 5th anniversary of George Floyd's murder. Yeah. His brother actually came to our store for a press conference, and it was hosted at our store, which was very, very, very important to us. And we were very honored and grateful to have been able to host that in the store, with great media coverage as well. So those are the things, we make the space a place where anything can happen, as long as it's a small space. It's only about 600 square feet, but we can switch some things around and make some things happen.
Right. Most places in Brooklyn are small spaces right now, but that is the magic of the place, being able to still be able to create really special events in these places because of the people and because of the folks who are hosting it.
We'll be right back after this message.
What has because that is a busy strip, as you mentioned earlier, too. What has the welcome been to you in the neighborhood with mixing with all of these different types of businesses? And there's a wide variety of businesses on Franklin Avenue now.
Yeah, the welcome has been great. Well, it's so funny because we really have had a long-standing relationship. We've eaten at on Franklin Avenue for over the decades, now that everything has been, expanding and growing. One of our favorite restaurants is Mayfield. So we're on the same block with Mayfield. So it was funny when I said to my husband, I said, it's on the same block as Mayfield. He was like, Mayfield? What? And so we weren't unfamiliar with the new Franklin Avenue. And so it's been a great welcoming experience. I have actually joined the Franklin Avenue Merchants Association, and we now have open streets. We are celebrating another open streets coming up this weekend. And so it's every other Saturday from 12 to 6, and it's going to start to grow. So that's going to be fun. And so it's really starting to feel like one big family out there. So I think, the neighborhood will continue to grow, and there's some condominiums that are going up and new faces every other day. But I think people are very excited that we're there, especially because of the services that we offer. The best feeling is when someone runs in and says, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you guys are here because I didn't want to have to go all the way downtown Brooklyn to get this service done, whether it's alterations or I just need a pair of shoes." A gentleman came in, he was like, "I just need a button-down shirt and a white t-shirt," and he was able to find it like right in the store, and that feels good when they can go right around the corner and go back home.
Yeah, I understand that. As we're getting more and more services in Brooklyn, that is a big advantage. We've had a few married couples who work together in an entrepreneurial space. And so I always ask, what that's like and how you're able to not, it bleeds, right? The personal into the business bleeds. But any advice you have for couples who are working together? In fact, I just spoke to a couple not too long ago that I hadn't interviewed, as personal friends of mine. But yeah, they were really struggling. In fact, the husband was just like, we're really not in a good space right now because of the family is great, but because there were some business decisions that they haven't agreed on. And so how do you manage a new relationship that you're developing, a new marriage that you're developing, a new business, right? And making sure that all the seams are as even as they can be.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that question too. Jeff and I have been together 12, 13 years, and we married 3 out of those 12, 13 years. We are, this is our second go around for each other. He was married before, I was married before, but this is going to sound, we have a great relationship. And I think what we've come to learn to do is to give each other space and to give each other the ability to be individuals. I love my husband. I love working with my husband. I love traveling with my husband. And I believe he would say the same. I know he would say the same. One thing he did, and gosh, he has given me the store as my space to be crazy Theresa, right? I get to do the things that I want to do. I get to come in there and make the big decisions about the store. He believes that it is my space to grow and flourish. And he's so wonderful. Like, he gives me all the support in the world. And, even when there were the tough months, oh my gosh, when the economy was crashing from January to April, and I was like, oh my goodness, no one's coming in to buy. And the whole avenue just got so quiet, and everyone was so afraid with what's been going on, with this new administration, and people were losing their jobs, and it was tough. And Jeff is the biggest cheerleader. He is the biggest cheerleader of mine. And he is the one in the relationship that every day he was like, just keep moving, babe. Let's keep going. Let's keep doing it. And making sure that I'm energized. So the advice I would give, to husband and wives or partners who are together and growing a business together, it's like, you have to carve out your niche. You have to carve out, like, what's your lane? When we first got into the store, I said, Jeff is responsible for all the men's clothing in the store and the shoes, and that's his thing. And I'd let him do that. I was responsible for all the women's clothing and other items and the special events. And, he's very protective. He does react as a husband sometimes, where he may say, what he say? What that guy say? He said something to you when I was like, no, babe, it's okay. It's fine. Everything's good. Everything's wonderful. So we have those moments, but he is, as I said, he's been phenomenal. And I, as I said, back to the advice portion of this, is to give your spouse or your partner their area. Let them have that, autonomy in that area. And it starts before you all are in business with each other. It really does. there's some partners who should never be in business together because they're just not good like that. They can't see eye to eye on anything. If you have a spouse that you have a hard time seeing eye to eye with them about anything in the house, what makes you think it's going to be any better when you all get together inside a 600 square foot store? It's going to be worse. Because then it's going to be, that kind of situation. So you have to have that synergy first. And as I said, own your area, try not to dominate each other. And when it comes to those, the things that someone should have the right to be free and express themselves with. And I do defer to him when it comes to the money side of things. Like he's the person, I call him Rain Man, because he sees numbers really, really quick. And I'm like, and then if we expand this side, I'm the person, I got to be reined in. I got to constantly be reined in. So, admit your weaknesses, and respect each other, but also use common sense. If y'all don't get along at home, you're not going to get along in the office space.
In the office,
and that's really important. And to me, that means you have bigger issues.
Right. So for you, this has been a new journey, and I've talked to a lot of friends, and of course, we're hearing about a lot of people trying to figure out what their second act is going to be, or how they're going to transition, or if it's possible to transition. And you are showing us that it is indeed possible to transition using your skills, using your talents to find and pursue a passion that is igniting something internally for you. And so if you could share your thoughts for people who are listening and thinking about their second act, what they should be considering, any fears that they should be allaying to be able to move forward.
Yes, absolutely. I would believe, I wholeheartedly say at this point, just go for it. Go for it. Do what you do what you want to do, because what is there to fail at this point? If you feel that it's a time where you have to pivot, because this is where we are right now. We're in that part of life where, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm also speaking to young people. I'm saying that you may be in this corporate position, or you're in this point where you're not necessarily sure whether or not you're going to have a position tomorrow. Nothing is for sure or for certain. And companies are at this point where you may come in today and they tell you, yeah, we no longer need your services. So I've always shared, and especially even with some of the young people, as I mentioned, who come into the store, or anyone who walks into the store, and they may have some concerns or fears about what their next step is. I always tell them there's got to be something that you feel passionate about, or something that you've had an interest in for a long time. Now's the time to jump into it. I always say, start by setting up your own LLC online, create your own little corporation quietly, start to grow it a little bit, put all the things in place, whether it's the bank account for the business. And maybe, if you're a person who's been in HR for many years and you feel like things are getting ready to not be so good for me at work, why don't you start consulting and build a client here or there, or do something where you have the ability to start to exercise those muscles, so that you don't necessarily feel like, oh my gosh, something's happened and I have no form of income. I don't have anything in place. You're devastated and you're trying to figure out what your next step is. You have to exercise the muscle of being a person who knows how to feed yourself, take care of yourself, and hunt for your own business. And you have to do that while you're still working for someplace else. You need multiple streams of income. And so the good news is, when you and I are, maybe I don't know how old you are, but I'm presuming that maybe we came up in a time where we didn't have all these fancy gadgets, whether it was the internet. You're in a place now where you can go online. If you decide you want to be a master chef tomorrow, you can research anything. You can find classes anywhere now, whether they're classes that you didn't even have to leave your house for to become certified in something. And they're there are things that you may need just minimal money. Jeff and I did not have a lot of money to jump into this store, but we jumped in and we bootstrapped it the entire way. And it was bare bones. But I remember the day he was like, we're not ready to open. I was like, we're ready to open. We're opening those doors today. And we had these little racks, 6 little racks. And now the store is like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with all these clothes? So that's how it goes.
Re-emphasize that the part, because I know I struggle with that too. And every time I do it, it's that, and so many of us, and I know so many people listening, struggle with this. It's, you want to get it right. You want to get it perfect. It's got to be exact. And particularly when you've come from a specific professional background or you had specific training, like you can only see it the way you've been taught. And I always say one of the things that I think young people that I do admire about them is that I'm just going to try it. I may not be good at it. I don't know if I really know what I'm doing yet, but and like you said, you opened, right? And you guys are fine. Everything is fine, because it always ends up, even if you struggle in the beginning, right? That's where you learn more lessons. That's where you pick up some more insights, and it always works out.
Everything I thought I knew about a store before I opened the doors, I just was like, oh, wow, that's not even it. It's this over here. But it was that we had to do it, and we had to go through the process of it. And we had to go through some tough times. There were times, in there something wasn't working, this wasn't working, and you had to tough it out, figure it out, and learn how to just use your brain and do something to make it work in that moment. But I say jump in. I said, there are things you definitely need certification for.
Right.
There are definitely things you need to go about and get the right training. You're not going to go and become a heart surgeon tomorrow because you think you want to be a heart surgeon. You got to go to medical school.
Exactly.
You got to pass the exams and become certified. And, but there are things that if you have been doing them for a while or you have an interest in them, even when it comes to, it means leaving this country. A lot of us are considering those things right now. Like, do we leave? Do we go someplace else? And I also would say this: we always try to do things sometimes alone. We always want to do things in private. We want to be, and that can be really hard. I don't think I would have been able to open the store as easily as we did. It wasn't easy, but I had a partner. I had my husband. I had somebody who I could come home and talk to about it. I had another girlfriend who I call her my business manager, Anne, who is amazing. She literally helped us set up the store in 2 weeks, did everything because that's what she does. You know what I'm saying? So finding people who are skilled at what they do, going to the right people with the right questions, not the wrong people, because we got enough of them who will tell you, no, I think it's crazy. You guys are, we didn't tell anybody. Jeff and I didn't tell anybody. Just a very small few folks knew we were opening the store. There are people who were angry with us. They were like, how come y'all they didn't tell us you were opening the store? It's because we didn't, not to say that we thought they specifically were going to say something, but negative about it, but we just wanted to focus in. So I would say, just start researching it. Start to make steps in the right direction. You've got AI now. AI can help you do anything, and pull in the right people who are going to give you constructive, feedback, and do your best to start making, your steps, one small step at a time in that right direction. And by the time you look around, you're there. So don't be afraid. And who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares what people say? I have a joke in my store. If someone comes into the store, I say to my seamstress Natalie all the time, I said, no one can make me feel bad about anything. I'm sitting in my own store on Franklin Avenue, minding my own business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Theresa. This was wonderful. It was great meeting you. Thank you for sharing your story. And I'm so grateful that I live in Brooklyn because I'm coming to see you.
So. Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for this. This was fun. And it was a wonderful moment to be able to talk about this. We are actually coming up on 1 year. It will be August 17th. So, to be able to share this past year with you in a few minutes has been truly gratifying.
Please tell us for those listening, how they can find you, how they can follow you, and how they can come experience the store.
Yes, we are located at 708 Franklin Avenue. That's between Park Place and Prospect Place in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. The 2345 goes there as well as the shuttle. We have a bus right outside. But yeah, no, we're right in a really great part and a growing part. You can find us on Instagram. Feel free to follow us at Reimagined BK, as well as TikTok. We're on there as well. And, feel free to stop by. We are in the store Tuesday through Sunday from 12 to 7 p.m.
Well, thank you so much. We look forward to all the wonderful things that will go on in your store and how it expands and changes and shapes the neighborhood. It sounds like you guys are a true blessing to be there.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much. And I appreciate this. We hope to see you in the store soon.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another great guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Alleyne. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First Podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.